North Korea.
North Korean.
North Korea.
North Korean.
North Korea.
North Korea. North Korean.
North Korean.
North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea has been flooding the news, so I think it's time that we take a look at the power dynamics behind the scenes. How does this country run? And why is Kim Jong-Un still in power? On this episode of Prism Explains, we're going to be talking about the government of North Korea. Like the last government of video, we'll be using a chart to clear things up, and to start anywhere, we're going to need to start at the top. Starting at the top, it is important that we touch on the deceased Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, because their positions still hold power over the public, both as a validation of the power of Kim Jong-un and as part of the pseudo-religious cult of personality that surrounds the Kim dynasty. Kim Il-sung first took power in 1948 in the role of premier. Throughout his life, he would take the offices of both president and chairman, being given the overall title of the Great Leader. In these positions, he created the ideology of Judiciary, or self-reliance, a policy that stated that a man was the master of his own destiny, and that only by making North Korea strong and self-sustaining can true independence and prosperity be achieved, a nationalist doctrine that helps guide the country to this very day. And he also adopted the 10 principles for the establishment of a monolithic ideological system. It's a set of rules for the North Korean people that is perceived as superseding the constitution, and mainly props up the Kim dynasty. Upon his death in 1996, Kim Il-sung was given the office of Eternal President to keep him in the minds of the North Korean people moving forward. From this office, he appears to have the highest legal precedence of any authority in North Korea. However, his current state of being a corpse typically prevents most people from making decisions, but stranger things have happened in Korea before. At this point, his son Kim Jong-il then took on the role of power in the country in the same role as his father, alongside with his place on the Presidium, a group that we will be discussing later. Kim Jong-il was also given the mantle of the Dear Leader so as not to replace his father's position as the Great Leader. Kim Jong-il is the first to use the official title of Suryong, or Supreme Leader, a title that will be held by his successors. Under Kim Jong-il, North Korea has experienced large famines and human rights abuses that stunted the country's growth. It is under Kim Jong-il that the country would strengthen its Sungun, or military-first policy that has embedded the military's place in government. More on that in a second. When Kim Jong-il died in 2011, he then obtained the office of Eternal General Secretary, which appears to put him beneath his father, though Kim Jong-il, being dead, has not used his power so far. This is where Kim Jong-un, the current Supreme Leader and now General Secretary, took power as the first chairman. As Kim Jong-un currently holds a multitude of positions, we are going to address them as we get to them, as opposed to listing them all without context. First off, let's establish that the government of North Korea may be understood of consisting of 3 parts: the legislative, the judiciary, and the administrative, which are neither independent of each other or similar in power. As it is best to eat the biggest frog earliest in the morning, we're going to be tackling the legislative first. The main legislative body of North Korea is the Supreme People's Assembly, or the SPA, a parliament of 687 representatives of the people, all chosen through public show elections, or false elections. Its responsibilities include amending the Constitution, adopting legislation, appointing many officials, and overseeing the election. In reality, the SPA does not take any actions of its own, and merely enacts the will of the higher-ups within the Workers' Party of Korea, or the WPK. See, this is where I admit to lying about the frog. See, if the SPA was a frog, this is a bona fide Gitrog monster, because this here begins the administrative branch. The WPK is the main party of North Korea, being written into the Constitution, and is for the most part a facade for the Kim family. The WPK is formally led by the Congress, but that rarely assembles. See, 2016 being the first time since 1980 that they have held a Congress. The Congress itself serves as a rubber stamp for the structure above it, which gets a bit messy. Above the Congress is the Central Committee, which is officially the highest group in the party, and serves while the Congress is not in session, which is most of the time. Now hold on to something, because at this point, it gets really weird. The Central Committee has 4 subordinate groups: the Central Control Committee, which regulates party membership; the Central Military Committee, which runs the Korean People's Army, the 4th largest standing army in the world; the Executive Policy Bureau, which oversees the other organs of the party and implements party policies; and the Politburo, which is the main decision-making body of the WPK. The Politburo itself is run by a group called the Presidium. Why is this messy? Well, it's simple. It's all a farce. The Supreme Leader, currently Kim Jong-un, serves as the General Secretary of the Congress. He's also the chairman of the WPK itself, which makes him the chairman of the Central Committee, and the head of the Executive Policy Bureau, and the chairman of the Central Military Committee, which oversees the army that he is already a commander of, and the chairman of the Politburo, and of the Presidium that controls it. So did you get all that? Kim Jong-un is the superior to everyone in North Korea, including, at times, himself. At this point, you're hopefully wondering why there's no revolt against the Kim dynasty. Now, it's worth discussing 4 things. First, there is the Judiciary, which is comprised of the Supreme Court made of a Chief Justice and 2 People's Assessors, which are just, for the most part, able party members. Every court in the country also follows this same composition. The court is supposedly held accountable to the SPA, which starts back up the whole chain again. Most often, court proceedings are tampered with for the sake of state security. There are often reports of disappearances, torture, false charges, forced confessions, and extrajudicial killings. Despite citizens technically having the freedoms of speech, of press, of protest, and assembly, according to the Constitution, when someone is being tried for the crime of dissent against the state, they are not considered citizens and don't have those rights anymore. This is the first answer to why there's no coup. The people are unable to stir rebellion. Secondly, Kim Jong-un holds a very tight leash. Take this photo. These are the men who walked alongside the casket of Kim Jong-il. That's not a position you can attain without being either important or powerful. Woo Dong-suk, banished. Kim Jong-gak, banished. Kim Yong-chun, vanished. Kim Jong-un's uncle, Jang Song-thaek, firing squad. Ri Yong-ho was gone for so long that we believed he was dead until he reappeared in a recent photo release, leaving us to believe that he was re-educated. So who does that leave behind untouched? There's Kim Ki-nam, the leader of propaganda, and Cho Tae-bok, the chairman of the SPA. Now why do they get to live easy? Simple. They're both civilians in their 80s. That's not the kind of person who launches a coup. And what about the photo release I mentioned earlier? Well, in 2016, North Korea dropped the hottest album of the year in the form of photos of party and military leaders that displays 2 clear messages to the public. First, Kim Jong-un is putting the party over the military, decreasing their power and making a coup unlikely at best. And second, that he is consolidating and curating those in power. Many of the men in these photos now hold multiple positions. Many of them have proven their loyalty over a long period of time, like the 88-year-old Kim Ki-nam. Or they're being brought into power at a young age, like the millennial No Kwon-chul. So, the second answer to the lack of the coup? Very tight leashes. Thirdly, and it might be controversial to say it this way, but the people love him. And yes, I know images and stories of human rights atrocities the world over are flying through your head right now, but most North Koreans don't really know the full extent of the horrors that happen behind the scenes, just that there are horrors. They know that people disappear and that you shouldn't go against the state, but most have never even been near a prison camp, let alone heard of what happens there. But the people don't just love him out of fear. They often love him out of respect. Trained respect. From the moment of birth, North Korean citizens are blasted with propaganda, with a photo of the dear leader on every wall, and of a radio in every house, and the news on every corner. They are given the propaganda of a leader that loves them. The idea of a leader that cares for them, of a leader that will protect them from the foreign imperial American dogs that threaten their lives, of a leader who guides them to a brighter future and to a better tomorrow. With the practice of religion being outlawed, small exceptions, it is no small surprise that the people have taken to deifying the Kim dynasty. With stories from the outside world being rare at best and punishable by death at worst, how could the people possibly know that they're being lied to? Answer 3 to the absence? The people are content and unaware. And the fourth answer is perhaps a bit stranger. Kim Jong-un is the linchpin to this entire country. He's too big to fail. Saddam Hussein was a tyrant, but when he was removed, the entire country fell apart. With the power vacuum left in his wake, a multitude of rival groups came to fight over the right to power. It was devastating. It is devastating. It is this event that led to the formation of ISIS and to much of the disruption happening in the Middle East to this very day. Now imagine the death of Kim. Kim's very bloodline is in the Constitution, and his family is everywhere in positions of power across the party and military, and they are all chomping at the bit to take that throne if it was to go absent. So with a third of the population in the military, there'd be no end to the fighting. What kind of groups could emerge? Would it be the beginning of another Iraq? Another ISIS? Answer 4. There will be chaos in his absence. At the end of the day, when dealing with or discussing North Korea and its crazy antics, we need to remember that it is anything but crazy. Madmen can't rule for long, but the Kim dynasty has been kicking since the 40s with no signs of unrest. Kim Jong-Un stays in power due to his long-term planning and strategy. Behind every crazy threat and outlandish statement, every execution and disappearance, every assassination and forced confession, there lies the tactics of a man with no intent to leave his seat of power. As this topic is surrounded with contradictory information, I certainly have got something wrong. If you catch something that I missed, if you have a suggestion for a future video, or if you'd like to discuss this topic further, feel free to leave a comment down below. Hey everybody, thank you for making it to the end of this video. It's been a long time coming, but we're finally uploading videos again. We're going to try to put up at least one gaming video per month over there on Prism Mediums, and at least one informational video every other month here on the third shift. So I hope you are as excited as we are to be moving forward. We have lots of plans for these channels, and I can barely wait to show you when we get there. Anyway, this has been Matthew here on the third shift, and thank you so very much for watching.